Imagine standing on the edge of basketball immortality with the chance to build a dynasty that could eclipse even Jordan's Bulls, only to watch it all collapse from the inside. That's the story of the early 2000s Lakers. Not a tale of being outplayed, not a tragic stroke of bad luck, but the most infamous act of self-destruction the NBA has ever seen. 3 straight championships, the 2 most dominant forces in basketball at their peaks, and the greatest coach of his generation calling the plays. They should have owned the decade. Instead, they let ego, greed, and manipulation burn it all to the ground. When Kobe Bryant sat across from Shaquille O'Neal years later and asked him the question every fan had been dying to hear, "After we split apart, were you trying to get more championships than me?" Shaq didn't hesitate. "Absolutely," he said. That was the heart of the feud, the engine driving 2 men who should have been teammates for life. Instead of channeling that obsession into more banners for the Lakers, they turned it into fuel for rivalry. Each was hell-bent on proving he could win without the other, even if it meant destroying the dynasty they'd already built together. Shaq admitted that when they first started winning, he thought he could coast in the summers. Why push himself when Kobe was in the gym 8 to 10 hours a day? Kobe hated that. He felt betrayed, like his own teammate was riding his work ethic to glory. And when it began, whispers Shaq himself helped fuel, that Kobe couldn't win without him, Bryant snapped. He swore he wouldn't retire with people saying that. If that meant breaking the partnership apart, then so be it. By 2001, the tension had shifted from competitive friction to a battle of wills. The rest of the Lakers' locker room swore they wouldn't pick sides, but everyone knew the divide was there. Rick Fox, Derek Fisher, even role players like Devine George could feel it in the air. Kobe wanted to prove he was more than Robin. Shaq wanted to remind everyone he was still Superman. Both wanted to be the guy. And while they were busy waging war with each other, Phil Jackson was fanning the flames. Phil, the so-called Zen master, was supposed to keep the peace. Instead, he was running psychological experiments on his own players. He'd tell Kobe what Shaq said behind his back, then run to Shaq and repeat Kobe's frustrations. He wanted conflict. Robert Horry revealed years later that Phil thrived on it. He thought it pushed players. But this wasn't motivating, it was sabotage. Jackson had already decided he wanted out after 2004. He was writing his tell-all book, The Last Season, where he would brand Kobe a narcissist and Shaq a slacker. To do that, he needed chaos. So he created it. Then there was Jerry Buss. The man who built the Lakers dynasty also killed it. Shaq wanted a max extension after 3 championships and 3 finals MVPs. Buss refused to pay it. To him, a 32-year-old center with conditioning issues wasn't worth the long-term investment. Kobe was the future, and Buss decided he'd rather let the feud spin out of control than spend his money to keep the duo together. Instead of paying Shaq, instead of paying Phil, he let the media paint it as Kobe versus Shaq and let them destroy each other while he prepared for the next era. Shaq wasn't innocent either. He showed up to the 2003 training camp out of shape again. He mocked Kobe during Bryant's darkest hour in Colorado, telling reporters the full team is here, while Kobe was at trial. He went on stage in 2008 rapping, "Kobe, tell me how my ass tastes," after the Lakers lost in the finals. That's not leadership. That's bitterness. That's ego. And Kobe, for all his brilliance, poured gasoline on the fire too. He bribed teammates with Adidas gear if they passed him the ball more than Shaq, only to switch to Nike later. His own teammates begged Phil Jackson to trade him because they couldn't stand playing with him. But Kobe didn't care. He was obsessed with being the man. He couldn't accept 2 more years as Shaq's sidekick, even if it meant 3 more rings. By 2004, it all came to a head. Gary Payton never fit into the triangle. Karl Malone got injured. Kobe was flying back and forth to Colorado for his trial, demanding better planes from the Lakers, openly flirting with the Clippers. Fisher lost his starting spot and admitted he played angry. The locker room wasn't a team, it was a battlefield. And when the finals came, the Lakers imploded. 68 points in Game 3. 68. The most talented roster in basketball reduced to rubble by a Pistons team with no superstars, just unity. The dynasty was gone. Shaq shipped to Miami. Phil gone, only to return later and win 2 more titles with Kobe. Kobe left behind to prove he could win on his own. And both men spent the rest of their careers obsessed with proving they were right instead of proving they were unbeatable together. The truth? The Lakers didn't just lose in 2004, they committed basketball suicide. Everyone failed. Phil chose manipulation and book sales over coaching. Buss chose money over legacy. Shaq chose comfort over sacrifice. Kobe chose ego over patience. Even the role players chose sides. They all wanted more money, more credit, more recognition, and the disease of more killed them. Years later, Shaq stood at Kobe's memorial, crying, admitting he wished he'd called, wished they'd worked it out. But that was the tragedy. It took Kobe's death for Shaq to admit the truth. For all those years, both men could have swallowed their pride, picked up the phone, and reunited to dominate the league again. Instead, they let the greatest dynasty that never was die. They could have been better than Jordan's Bulls. They could have won 8 championships, maybe more. But they chose ego, and ego always loses. That's the story of the Lakers dynasty. Not a story of defeat, but of self-destruction. The most tragic what-if in sports history.